Chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga.
So in the scheme of the Bhagavad Gita, there are certain chapters which are diagnostic, which help us to understand our natures better. And this is one such chapter. So this is very interesting chapter because there they have a Kshetra and a Kshetrajna. Kshetra means a field and Kshetrajna means the knower of the field. This is a very philosophical chapter dealing with the relationship between the spirit, that is the soul, and matter, this material world. How are they related? Matter is called Kshetra, or Prakriti is called the Kshetra, the field in which we are living. And in us there is a constant which never changes, which is the conscious element, the life principle in us. That is called the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. That is related to the spirit, and that is the real self, the true self. And the Kshetra that we have, the field in which we are living, that has been created by nature, and that is in a process of evolution. It is the field which evolves. The Kshetrajna, the knower of the field, he never evolves. He is constant. He is always steady. Now Arjuna has become convinced with his mystical experience of Vishwarupa Darshana, and then Bhakti, the description of Bhakta. So now his understanding is to be made more philosophical. And this is what this chapter accomplishes. It also helps us to distinguish these two aspects in our own life, which is the field in our life and which is the knower of the field. Who is the knower of the field in us and what is the field in us? In one of Eknath Ishwaran's commentaries, he describes the gardener and the garden. A gardener sows a beautiful garden. He plants many types of trees, plants, flowers, shrubs, and then he waters it. He looks after it, and after some time they all grow and bear fruit and flowers. But the gardener is quite conscious of the fact that he is separate from his garden. He says, this is me, this is my garden. This is what I have created with my effort, and I with my intelligence as the knower, I created this garden. So that is the Kshetra. Similarly, our mind-body complex that we have, that has been created by our efforts, by the karma that we have done. We have created our own field. And in this field that we have created, we are living in it as the knower of the field. Now, when it is not philosophically understood, a person confuses the field for his real nature. He thinks the field is his real nature, does not realize that it is the knower of the field which is his essential nature, his or her. So that aspect is here distinguished. The initiative goes back to Arjuna. He says, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajna Evacha Etad Veditum Ichhami Jnanam Nyeyam Cha Keshava. Prakritim, as we know, Prakriti is nature. Purusham, that is the spirit aspect. Chaiva. Kshetram and Kshetrajna. The Kshetram is the field and Kshetrajnam is the knower of the field. Etad Veditum Ichhami. I wish to know. I would like to know. Jnanam Nyeyam Cha Keshava. And the distinction between knowledge and what is to be known. Jnana is knowledge and Nyeyam is what is to be known. Jnata is the one who knows. So there are these threefold divisions, Jnanam, Nyeyam and Jnata. But here he is talking of Jnanam and Nyeyam. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Krishna says, Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram iti abhidhiyate etad yo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Idam Shariram Kaunteya. This body, O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, is the Kshetra, abhidhiyate. It's called. Kshetram etad yo veti tam prahu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. The body of Kaunteya is called the field, and he who knows this, thus they call, who know the knower of the field. So the one who knows that this body is the field is the knower of the field. So knowledge aspect is separate from the field aspect. And only that person who knows that this body is the field, that person knows. Kshetrajnam cha api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragnyor jnanam yattad jnanam matam mama. And also know me as the knower of the field in all fields. Now, if we all speak of, I have a personal field, we all have personal fields, which is distinct from each other, because each individual is unique, each person is different, separate, multitude, plurality, etc. Then each one of us, within us, has that knower of the field. And in the knower of the field, Krishna says, I am the knower of all fields. So he is the essence of everybody, as the knowledge that is residing in everybody. And also know me as the knower of the field of all fields, O Bharata. That knowledge which refers to the knowledge of the field and the knower of the field is, in my opinion, the knowledge. We have spoken of knowledge, jnanam and vijnanam, and vidya and avidya. These are the two counterparts. Jnanam is knowledge, vijnanam is applied knowledge. So when we learn a skill, and we learn a trade, and we learn a vocation, that is all vijnana. It helps us to lead our lives in this world. But from a spiritual angle, that is not considered as superior knowledge. That is only relative knowledge. But real knowledge is this knowledge that Krishna is the knower of the field of all fields. This is the knowledge. Tad kshetram yatcha yadrikcha yad vikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tam samasena me shrunu. That hear in brief from me what the field is, what it is like, of what it is the modification, and whence and which it is, also what he, the knower of the field, is, and what is his specialized resulting expression. So after having demarcated these two broad divisions, first we have to divide into two general categories. We say field and the knower of the field. And the Lord is the knower of the field of all fields. Now what are the specific modifications of each of these? That he will give us now. Rishibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir vividhi prithak brahma sutra padaischaiva hetum adbhir vinishchitaihi. Sung by rishis in many ways, severally and distinctly in different meters, and also in the aphoristic words of the Brahma Sutras, replete with critical reasonings and positively determined. So this is the knowledge that is sung by the rishis in many ways, severally and distinctly in different meters. If you look into our scriptures, the Sanskrit verses are all written in different meters. Some are written in Anushtup meter, some are written in Trishtup meter, some are written in Jagati. These are the chands. And also the aphoristic words of the Brahma Sutras. And some are written in the form of sutras, which are very concise, very condensed statements, which need a commentary to understand. Athatu Brahma Jignasa. This is the first sutra of the Brahma Sutras. Replete with critical reasoning and positively determined. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam evacha indriyani dasaikam cha panche indriya gocharaha. Ichha dveshah sukham dukkham samghatas chetana dhritihi etad kshetram samasena savikaram udahritam. The great elements, ego sense, reason, and also the unmanifest, the 10 senses, the one mind, and the 5 conceptual aspects of the senses. Wish, dislike, pain, pleasure, the organic aggregation, vital intelligence, firmness. This, in brief, is the field with modifications named. So when we look at our Prakriti, the field, what is it made of? 5 elements. 5 elements are, we start with the most gross. Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kham. So the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the great elements. And then within us we have Ahankara, ego sense. And we have the Buddhi. This becomes subtle nature. Nature in its gross form are these elements. Nature in its subtle form are these factors within us as ego as reason and also the unmanifest, avyakta. That is the most subtle when you go to the unmanifest. Then the 10 senses, the one mind, and the 5 conceptual aspects of the senses. Each sense has the conceptual and perceptual aspect. In senses, both must have a counterpart. There must be a form, the form must have a name. So that is the conceptual part is the name, perceptual part is the form. Wish, dislike, pain, pleasure. Now these are the 2 ambivalent counterparts of the mind, that is wish and dislike, pain and pleasure. Organic aggregation, vital intelligence, firmness. This in brief is the field with modifications named. Freedom from conventional pride, unpretentiousness, non-hurting, non-retaliating forbearance, straightforwardness, loyal support of the teacher, purity, steadfastness, state of self-withdrawal, detachment in respect of sense interests, absence of egoism, insight regarding the pain and evil of birth, death, old age and disease, without clinging to and without intensely involved attachment to relations such as sons, wives and property such as houses, and having a constant neutral mental attitude in respect of desirable and undesirable happenings. Devotion to me to the exclusion of everything extraneous, and never straying from the direct path, preference to dwell in a place apart, distaste for crowded living, everlasting affiliation to the wisdom pertaining to the self, insight into the content of philosophical wisdom. This is declared to be wisdom. Whatever is other than this is ignorance. Like we said, this is a diagnostic chapter. So we are given a long list of qualities so that we can also check and we can know how many of these qualities are in us or how many qualities need to be cultivated, need to be developed. When he says freedom from conventional pride. See, social pride and social ego is a great hindrance on the spiritual path. It may serve us in society, but if we are on a spiritual path, then the spiritual ego, the social pride that we have, that becomes an obstacle. So he says conventional pride we should be free from, unpretentiousness, non-hurting, non-retaliating forbearance, that is titiksha, straightforwardness, loyal support of the teacher, purity, steadfastness, state of self-withdrawal. These are all qualities which make a contemplative life. These are not life for an activist. It's not the life of a person who is interested in achieving something in life, but something of a person who wants to meditate, go within. Detachment in respect of sense interest, absence of egoism, insight regarding the pain and evil of birth, death, old age and disease. Detachment in sense of sense interest means we should know sense interests are always dualistic in nature. Pleasure always leads to pain and they are always transient, passing, fleeting interests. So wise person is always detached, indifferent, not addicted to any kind of sense interest. Absence of egoism, because egoism again is a hindrance. Insight regarding the pain and evil of birth, death, old age and disease. Dukha dosha janma mrityu jara vyadhi. He realized that old age will bring these things, disease and incapacity. These are all the evil. So being conscious of this fact, not forgetting that, is a wise approach. Without clinging to and without intensively involved attachment to relations such as wives and property such as houses, and having a constant neutral mental attitude in respect of desirable and undesirable happenings. And also realizing that ultimately all of us are alone. It is only the Lord who is the true friend and true relative and true bandhu sakha. We sing that Tomeva bandhu sakha tomeva. So once we realize that we don't cling too much to relations such as sons and wives, it's not that we hate them, but we realize that these are all like a journey in which we have come to know certain people, and there will be times when we will part. Each one will go on his own path. In contemplative life, we find neutrality is always praised, having a neutral attitude, because the Absolute is neutral. So if you can have that neutral attitude between desirable and undesirable happenings, which are bound to occur in everybody's life. So the wise person does not rejoice when there is good, he does not feel depressed when things are not good, but he is able to have that samadrishti, a neutral attitude. Devotion to me to the exclusion of everything extraneous and never straying from the direct path. Preference to dwell in a place apart. Distaste for crowded living. Because crowded living will distract the mind, so many outside factors will come and people with their activities will always be a hindrance. So he said, distaste for crowded living. Preference to dwell in a place apart. For every yogi and contemplative, there is need for solitude and need to commune and need to think and ponder. So that is the preference to dwell in a place apart. And devotion to me, that is primary. The devotion to me to the exclusion of everything extraneous. So the extraneous interests become incidental. The main interest is devotion to the Lord. Everlasting affiliation to the wisdom pertaining to the self. That is Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Adhyatma means that Atma Jnana. Knowledge which is related to the self. Knowledge which is revealing the self, the Atman. To that we are everlastingly affiliated. Insight into the content of philosophical wisdom. This is declared to be wisdom. Whatever is other than this is ignorance. So these are absolutely clear guidelines given for every contemplative, every devotee or every person seriously interested should cultivate as many of these qualities as possible. I shall declare that which is to be known, knowing which one gains immortality, the beginningless having me as its supreme culminating factor, the absolute, which is said to be neither existence nor non-existence. This is typical language of philosophy. When we say existence and non-existence and beginningless, immortal and absolute, this is how philosophically we envision the highest truth. Existence means what is here. Non-existence. So these are the two categories, which is neither of these two. It is a category by itself. It's a unique entity by itself when we say the absolute. Knowing which one gains immortality. So knowing that we gain immortality. How does one gain? By knowing that the beginningless one gains absolute. We become what we think, we become what we know. And by knowing the absolute, we become the absolute. By knowing what is immortality, we become immortal. Sarvatah panipadam tat sarvato akshi shiromukam sarvatah shruti malloke sarvam avritya tishtati. This is directly from the Upanishads, from the Svetasvatara Upanishad. This shlok has been taken. So it is a vision of a cosmic kind of a personality. When you say with hands and feet everywhere, with eyes and heads and mouths and hearing everywhere in the world, that remains enveloping all. So that being, we as individuals, we have our individual roles, individual personalities. But that which is transcending everything, which is the most subtle, that is in everything. And all of us, we are like sprouts. We are different forms of that one reality. And therefore all these hands that we have are in essence the hands of that being. If that being wants to carry out something, it makes these hands move and do it. That has no limbs, that is limbless. That has no form, it is formless. But through that formless, limbless being, it makes us act. So Aristotle calls it the unmoved mover. He says, imagine a person working. He is using an instrument, he is using a tool with his hands. So the tool is being moved by his hand. His hand is being moved by his muscle, let's say. His muscles are being moved by his mind. And who is moving his mind? He says you can keep on going backwards till you come to one entity, which we call the unmoved mover, which is making everything move. So that is Tat. Shining by the specific characteristics of the senses, devoid of all sense attributes, unattached, supporting all, without qualities, yet perceiving qualities. So shining by the specific characters of the senses, devoid of all sense attributes, unattached, supporting all, without qualities, yet perceiving qualities. So he says shining by the specific characters of the senses. So even though, like the eye, our eyes are able to see the world outside, but we cannot see our own eyes. Similarly, this being which is supporting all, which has no qualities, yet it perceives all qualities. It has no sense attributes, yet it is shining because of the sense attributes. It is because of the sight, the sound, the mind that we are able to conceive it. But by itself it has no such attributes. In Vedanta we speak of a crystal. Take a colorless crystal, place it on a red piece of silk, the crystal will appear red. But itself it has no color. But because it is placed on the red color, it appears to be red. Similarly, this being too, in itself it has no attributes to the senses. It is perceived as if it has characteristics. Without and within beings, immobile and mobile too, because subtle, that is unknowable, that stands far and near also. Without and within beings, so this is it, without and within beings, immobile and mobile too, because subtle, that is unknowable, that stands far and near also. This is also an echo of the Upanishads. In the Isavasya Upanishad we say, Tadejati tannejati, taddure taduantike. Tadejati, that moves, that does not move, that is far and that is near also. So these cancelling out brings the mind to its neutral center. This entity which is everywhere, it is subtle, so you can't say that it moves, yet it moves. It is mobile and it is immobile. It is near and it is far. And undivided yet remaining divided. Avibhaktam cha bhakteshu, vibhaktam iva cha sthitam, bhuta bhrit cha taj nyeyam, grahishnu prabhivishnu cha. And undivided yet remaining divided as it were in beings, supporter of existence, and that which is to be known, holding back and releasing for expansive becoming. So again, that cosmic being, that entity is further described as undivided yet remaining divided. In its essence there is no division, yet it appears to be divided as it were in beings, supporter of existence and that which is to be known, holding back and releasing for expansive becoming. Jyotisham api tad jyotish, tamasah param uchyate, jnanam nyeyam jnanagamyam, hridi sarvasya adhishtham. The light even of lights, that is said to be beyond darkness, knowledge, the knowable, and what is to be reached through knowledge, particularly located in the hearts of everyone. Clearly mentions where it is located, though it has so many extraordinary qualities and such supreme powers, it is located in the hearts of everybody. Hridi sarvasya adhishtanam. So it is not to be sought far away, it is to be looked at in one's own heart. It is the light even of lights. It is said to be beyond darkness. When we speak of the self, the soul, we say it is Swayam Prakash, self-luminous. It does not need any other entity to illuminate it. In the world we need the sun, we need artificial light to illumine this world, the physical world. Without that illumination, the world cannot be seen. Everything is plunged into darkness. But this self within us, that does not require any other light to shine. It has its own light. It shines by its own light. It is self-luminous, Swayam Prakash. So we say the light even of lights, that is said to be beyond darkness. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya and King Janaka have a dialogue, and King Janaka asks Yajnavalkya, how does a man move around? He says, by the light of the sun. Supposing the light of the sun were to go away, then he would say light of the moon. Supposing there were no light of the moon, he would say by the light of a fire. You keep on reducing till you will come to ultimately the light of the self within us. And that which is going to guide us all the time. It's coming to us as knowledge. It is located in the hearts of everyone. Thus the field and wisdom and what has to be known have been briefly told. So the field we know is made up of the 5 elements, the mind, the ego, and the other complex. And wisdom we know has all those qualities. So one is quantitative as it were, the other is qualitative. We speak of wisdom values, they speak of the qualities of a human being. Having known this attains to my state of being. He attains to my state of being. Upapadyate mad bhavaya. You get bhava of the Lord. Once this knowledge is known, a person's bhava changes. He becomes divine. His consciousness becomes divine. He becomes of the mind of Krishna, or he gets Krishna consciousness. If he is a Christian, he would say gets Christ consciousness. If you are a follower of Krishna, you will say you gain Krishna consciousness. Knowing that nature and spirit are both beginningless, and know also that modifications and their intrinsic modalities are born of nature. Know that nature and spirit are both beginningless. If we try to trace the origin, we cannot. Nature, Prakriti and Purusha both have a beginningless, endless, cyclic thing going on. And also know that modifications and their intrinsic modalities are born of nature. And these modalities that we see or modifications that we have, these are born of the gunas. It is the gunas which are modifying, which are bringing modifications, which are bringing the variety in our life, the change, the transformations, and the constant new freshness that keeps coming into life is caused by the gunas, that is nature, but not the spirit. The spirit is like a constant. It is the witness, it is the anchor, it is the support, it is the ground, and it is the neutral witnessing consciousness which is ever shedding its light. And Prakriti is doing its grand drama, producing endless variety after variety, going on like a sport, and that is why they say it is a Leela. It is like a grand Leela, grand drama, sport of the Lord, where nature keeps on producing fresh and new experiences. Karya karana kartritva hetuhu pragritir uchyate purushah sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetur uchyate. What concerns the agency of cause and effect, the motivating factor is said to be nature. In the matter of the experiencer of pleasure and pain, the motivating factor is spirit. So when we talk of karya and karana, that is cause and effect, in this world is a chain of cause and effects. If we see our life, the history of this world, history of the nation, your personal life, it's a chain of cause and effect relationships. One cause has an effect that has become new cause for another effect. Like billiard balls that are getting hit, one hits the other and the other hits the third. In that form, cause-effect relationships are constantly happening in this world. And that is said to be part of nature. This cause-effect, karya karana, kartritva, cause of agency of cause and effect. Agency belongs always to the nature. Whereas in the matter of experiencing, but who is experiencing this in terms of pleasure and pain? We experience only in two broad categories. Either we have painful experiences or we have pleasant experiences. There it is the spirit which is the motivating factor as the experiencer. Nature is creating the cause and effect relationships, chains, and the experiencing is coming from the side of spirit. Upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhokta. The spirit seated in nature appreciates the modalities born of nature. Association with modalities is the cause of births in good or evil wombs. So we say the house, you build a house and then we occupy it. You build a garage and then you drive your car into it. Similarly, nature builds this whole universe and spirit sits in it as the appreciator. The modality is born of nature. Nature makes the modalities. An association with that modality is the cause of births in good or evil wombs. If you have a sattvic modality, you are born in a good family. You get advantages. If a person is born in association with tamoguna, then you have to put up with a lot of difficulties, problems, misfortunes, hardships. It's all part of tamoguna. Pain comes. So this association is the cause. Spirit is not the cause. Spirit is sitting there only as a neutral, appreciating only, watching and experiencing. Guna makes the ups and the downs, the upheavals that is caused by the gunas. Supervisor, the permitter, supporter, experiencer, the great Lord, also called the Supreme Self, is the Supreme Spirit in the body. So while nature is with the Prakritis, the nature of spirit is supervisor, the permitter, supporter, experiencer, the great Lord, also called the Supreme Self, is the Supreme Spirit in the body. Upadrashta, supervisor, cha anumanta, permitter, bharta bhoktra, that is supporter and experiencer, Maheshwaraha, the great Lord, cha api uktaha, and also called Paramatma, the Supreme Self, iti purushaha paraha. This is the Supreme Purusha in the body. He who thus knows spirit and nature together with the intrinsic modalities, though he may happen to be leading any kind of life, is not born again. So this is again the true knowledge. Ya evam veti purusham pragritim cha gunaihi saha sarvata vartamano api nasa bhuyo abhijayate. Bhuyo abhijayate, not born again, bhuyaha. And he may be happen to be living in whatever way. So it is not in a social context that we think wisdom is important. Whichever way of life, whatever may be our lifestyles, if we have this knowledge, if we understand these principles, then that itself becomes our saving factor. If we know the nature of spirit and nature, together with the intrinsic modalities, saha gunaihi, then we are not born again. We've said again and again, Gita is a moksha shastra, leading to moksha, and therefore constantly the ideas are there, not returning and not being born, param gati, way of no return. So there are three kinds of self-realization. When he says not born again, that implies the person has gained self-realization. And this self-realization, he says, dhyanena atmani pashyati kechid atmanam atmana anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. Three kinds of self-realization. Atmana, that is meditating, some behold the self by the self. That can be considered the highest form of self-realization, where through the act of meditation you actually have a darshan, you see the self by the self. Others by Sankhya Yoga. This is one step lower. Sankhya Yoga means using your rational faculties, your buddhi. And the third, other category is Karma Yoga. They are more active people who are engaged in unitive action. Their actions are not selfish, their actions have got this unitive character. They are guided by wisdom. So even these Karma Yogis can attain the self or have self-realization. Now while these three refer to well-disciplined and proper aspirants who are fully aware of the path they are following, the next verse 25 describes ordinary, innocent people who don't know anything about yoga, secrets of yoga, sundry aspirants. Anye tvayevam ajanatah shrutva anyebhya upasate te apicha atitaranti eva mrityum shruti parayanaha. But others not knowing in this way worship, having heard from others, they also cross beyond death, depending on hearsay. So because of their interest and their faith, they just hear from others and they follow it. And even they can cross beyond death, even depending on hearsay. Whatever is produced, the unmoving or the moving, O best of the Bharatas, know that to be from the union of the field and the knower of the field. There again we come to the broad generalization. When you say whatever is produced here, moving and unmovable, even the ordinary grain of dust under the feet, which is the most insignificant thing, unmoving, of no value, to the most highest realization that we can think of, that is the highest state a human being can achieve, is all produced from the union of the field and the knower of the field. In one case, the field is entire. The knower of the field has become minimized when we talk of something immovable. And in the other case, the knower of the field is shining in the knowledge and he has transcended the field. But whatever, without the union of the field and the knower of the field, there is no production, no manifestation. He who sees the Supreme Lord abiding in a state of equality in all beings, within the perishing as the non-perishing, he sees. Saha pashyati. Now who would we call a seer, a knowledgeable person, is he who sees the Supreme Lord, Parameshwaraha. Tishthatam samam. Samam means equally. Tishthatam means equally abiding in all beings, within the perishing as the non-perishing. We know the outer self, mortal coil, that is a perishing aspect. If we are able to see that within this perishing body is the imperishable, Sarva Bhuteshu, in all beings, it is universal. No being is excluded. Every being has within it the imperishable as a spark, the divine. If we see that, then we really see. For he who sees the Lord seated equally everywhere destroys not the self by the self, and so he attains the supreme goal. This is the great quality of every saint, every master of realization. He sees and he treats every human being as if that Lord is seated in that human being. He worships the divine in the human being itself. He is conscious of it. He is conscious that God is seated in the hearts of all. So he does not slight, he does not destroy the self in anything. He only encourages the self. Same idea is repeated in the Isa Upanishad. Tado na vijugupsate. He does not hurt any. because he sees that same self is there in every being, and therefore he becomes conscious of it. And he also attains the supreme goal, yat param gatim. He who sees that all actions are done by nature alone, and likewise that the self is actionless, he truly sees. When we talk of Purushaha, when we talk of the spirit, the self, there is no karma in the self. It is stainless. No matter what happens in our life, the self is unaffected. And it is only the nature, modalities or gunas which are creating all the actions. All actions are done by nature alone. The three gunas, they are the cause of our action, not the self. This is true seeing. But a mudha person, a person who is foolish or unenlightened, he thinks he is the doer. He thinks he is the knower. He thinks he is the actor. I am not the actor. It is the gunas that are functioning. And the self in me is seated as a neutral witness, unaffected by anything. That is actionless. Then I really see. When he perceives the disjunct existence of beings established in the One, and from whence also their expansion, then he becomes the Absolute. This disjunct existence means everything is separate. For us, everything is separate. Bhuta prithak bhavam, disjunct existence of beings. Ekastam anupashyati, he begins to see established in one, and from whence their expansion, and also from where their expansion takes place. Then he becomes the Absolute. Having no beginning, having no attributes, this Supreme Self suffers no decrease. Though dwelling in the body, O son of Kunti, it neither acts nor is it tainted. So, Anadi, Anantam, these are the two limits. Anadi means no beginning. Adi means beginning, first. Anta means end. And Ananta means no end. So, no beginning and no end. No attributes, nirguna. Nature has the attributes, but spirit is attributeless. The Supreme Self suffers no decrease, avyayaha. Whereas nature is constantly in the form of fresh, new things coming, the old things are dying out. There is a flux there. But in the spirit, it is of no decrease. It neither acts nor is it tainted. Neither does it act nor does it tainted. It is only a neutral witness. It's just a participant. It is like watching. If you are standing passively and watching the passing show of this life, then you say you understand what is the nature of the witnessing consciousness in us. It does not act, nor is it tainted. Yet it experiences, it knows. As the all-pervading subtle space principle is untarnished by reason of its subtlety, when we say akasha, space, it is in space that we are living. It is in space that air moves. The atmosphere with its gases and its molecules and atoms are all living in space. And yet space is not tainted by any such thing. We say air is polluted, but space cannot be polluted. Space is just pure space. That pure space has become occupied by foul gas, so we say the air has become polluted. But space never. So subtle space, it is so subtle, it is so fine, it is so minute that it cannot be tarnished by reason of its subtlety. And think of the self now. The self is even more subtler, and therefore it can never be tainted. And it is seated everywhere in the body, not only in the heart, but it is distributed all over, is untarnished. So this is the real knowledge, the realization that the self is in us, in the untarnished and untainted reality in us. As the one sun shines this whole world, so the Lord of the field, O Bharata, illumines all the fields. We have varieties, we have nations, we have people, we have customs, we have different races, but all of them have the same one sun shining on them all, impartial shining of that one light to all. Similarly, the Lord of the field within us, the consciousness that we have, this life that we have, that is coming from the Lord, which is also shining like that sun, which doesn't care about nationality or race or people, nothing. It's just giving everybody an equal, impartial life. That is the Lord of the field, the Kshetrajna. Those who by the eye of wisdom perceive the difference between the field and the knower of the field and its bearing on elements, nature, emancipation, they go to the Supreme. So this discrimination, if a person has, by pondering and thinking about it, studying it, applying it, if a person can achieve this perception, is able to perceive the difference between the field and the knower of the field, and its bearing on elements, nature, emancipation. Bhuta Prakritir Moksham. Bhutas means the elements. Prakriti is nature and emancipation. Bhuta is like the inert, the dead. Prakriti is its dynamic form, and moksha is liberated. Those who can have this knowledge, know the difference between these, they go to the Supreme. Know the difference between the field and the knower of the field, and its bearing on elements, nature, emancipation, they go to the Supreme. A philosophical vision is called for here. When you say with the eye of wisdom to perceive this, with the Jnana Chakshu is very important. It is with the mind's eye, as it were, the eye that has been developed by knowledge, by reasoning, by discipline. With that sharp mind, if we are able to perceive, then we have the Jnana Chakshus. And with that Jnana Chakshus, if we are able to distinguish these, difference between first the field and the knower of the field, the first two broad divisions, and its bearing on the elements, Prakriti and Moksha. If you are able to see this, then we go to the Supreme. And that is the call in this chapter. First of all, know that there are two aspects, the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. Then distinguish what is the Kshetra and what is the Kshetrajna. What are the qualities of the Kshetra, what is the qualities of the Kshetrajna. If you have that ability, then how does this bear upon the Bhutas and the Prakriti and Moksha? And if you have this, then you go to the Supreme. That is the proper knowledge, real knowledge, or wisdom as it should be known. So with that, this chapter also comes to an end. It's a very fascinating chapter, and this slight duality that we have here between the knower and the field, that is corrected in the 15th chapter. When we come to the 15th chapter, we will find that we get Purushottama, the one Supreme Person. And from the Supreme Person, this slight duality that is existing here will be resolved. This is as if we are looking at the situation from the side of the spirit. This is immediately followed by the next chapter, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. In Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, we look at the scene from the side of nature now. Nature is made up of the gunas, and how do those gunas operate? That is looking at it from the side of gunas. Here we are seeing it from the side of the spirit. That spirit which is located everywhere, and specifically in the hearts of all beings, which is like the sun, it illumines this whole world, which is illumining all people also as consciousness, and which is subtle, all pervading, which has no beginning or end, untarnished. So these qualities refer to the spirit in us. And that spirit now has to be meshed in nature. When it is meshed in nature, we create what is known as a being. And nature means the gunas will operate there. Rajogun, Tamogun and Sattvagun. That is what will be discussed in the next chapter. How the gunas will regulate how the spirit expresses itself. If there is sattva in us, the spirit is able to express itself without any distortion, accurately. And if you have Rajoguna, you will get some distortion of values. Something will become exaggerated. Passion will enter into the situation. So that neutrality, that peace, that calm, that depth required will not be there. It will be disturbed by the Rajasic element. And if Tamas comes in, then obscurity comes, laziness comes, lassitude comes, and a person cannot progress on the path of the spirituality. All the three gunas have their impact, their effect on the spirit. They bind the spirit to different degrees. So that is where the yoga comes in. When we are doing yoga, or yoga means buddhi yoga plus physical yoga, sadhana, all the practices, we are trying to lift the spirit out of its enmeshment in the gunas. By doing what is right, by doing what is good, by being straight, we increase the sattva in us, and then we become more closer to the spirit. Our life has a spiritual quality now. And if we start understanding it philosophically, when the mind becomes pure and the intelligence becomes steadied, then we can understand philosophically. Once we understand philosophically, we can think of going to the Supreme. Without philosophical understanding, it's difficult to go to the Supreme. In this path, suppose in bhakti paths where people get into trances and they become completely absorbed, it's a different situation. But the Gita teachings always speak about the use of philosophy, use of reasoning, and leading a very balanced life, balancing the pairs of opposites and having a very sober well organized, well thought out, without any exaggerations, no extremes. That is why it's a very respected scripture, which allows people to have their spiritual progress in a way which will be totally harmonious with society, harmonious with nature and harmonious with God. So you make peace with God, you make peace with yourself, you make peace with the world, you become a yogi, you harmonize, you become an instrument of harmony. This is the beautiful vision of the Gita.